All right, y'all, I get to sit down with actor, producer, father, husband, and now New York Times bestselling author of Greenlights, Matthew McConaughey. Matthew, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me very much. Looking forward to our conversation.
So this is so fun because we all know you as an actor, and now you've put this book out that has crazy stories, awesome stories, entertaining stories. I have the hardback book here, but I'm listening to it on audiobook, and it's just so unbelievably engaging hearing your voice tell the story. I mean, you feel like you're there. But this whole thing is about this idea of green lights. So you've got green lights that are like, go, this is approval to move forward in life. Sometimes life throws you a yellow light or red light, and you talk about this in your book, and there's so many amazing stories. So
Correct.
Let's just start with talking about some of these stories in here. Like you're an amazing storyteller, but what has it been like telling your own story? Like you have made a career out of acting where you're acting someone else's story or someone else's script or someone else's role, and this is yours. Like what was that like for you to write it?
Well, that was one of the reasons that I wanted to write a book. I mean, so as you said, you know me as an actor. And now as an actor, I am enacting someone else's story. Someone else is directing me. Someone else is lensing me in the camera. And someone else is editing my performance before it gets in front of you and on the screen.
Right.
So there's 4 filters from my raw expression. So the book, I said, well, that's one filter. It's the written word. Like no filters is the direct interaction. That's what people do in stand-up or a live concert. That's no filters. It's direct, it's live, there's one take. So the book is got rid of 3 filters. It's only one filter, so to put the written word down. It was a journey back to look at my last 50 years, which I was hesitant about because I feared embarrassment and shame and guilt and other things, all of which were true when I went back and looked, but most of them weren't as harsh as, I didn't have as harsh of an experience looking back as I thought I would, meaning the things that I thought I wouldn't be embarrassed about, most of those I ended up laughing at. The things that I thought I'd be ashamed about, I ended up going, well, I forgive you. The things I felt guilty about, I was like, yeah, I forgive you for that one, or you've already forgiven yourself, or you've amended that. So it wasn't as hard to look back as I thought it was going to be, although it was not easy. The book is the truest piece of art expression of myself that I've ever put out. It's the truest extension of mine. I lived the stories.
Yeah.
I trying to still live the perspectives that I'm sharing, and then the approaches to trying to live a satisfactory life, and dealing with success and dealing with failure and dealing with crisis. What crisis to give credit to, what crisis not to give credit to.
Yeah.
I have no fewer questions now at 51 about figuring out this riddle of life than I had at 14. Yeah. But I think the questions have evolved, and that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I've got to do with the book. And I write in the book, when I put it in words, I'm making a social contract with myself. I'm also making a social contract with you. Mm-hmm. Meaning, if something in that book, it translates to you, it means something to you, and you, the public, someone sees me get off track, come remind me. Hey,
yeah, it's got accountability.
I'm in process. I'm in process like everyone. And
was it vulnerable?
Well, yeah, it was. Sure, it was vulnerable. But it wasn't like. Look, I've always. It's much harder to try and insulate hardships or crisis or the warts in our life. And actually, I understand and have done it myself in the position I'm in. Yeah. I'm not an open book, so to speak. Yeah. I would be foolish to be that, because there are people out there that would not have my best interest in mind and try to take advantage of that. Right. But at the same time, with myself, with my loved ones, we love to talk about it and are wide open about the warts and the ugly stuff and the failures and the foibles and the stumbles. And we think those are usually the funniest stuff too.
Yeah. Well, and it's so relatable because the people that are reading it are imperfect and have their own warts and struggles as well. Right. And so they read this and they go, oh my gosh, someone that was so polished on the screen to me, wow, he's a human being. And so I think it's so cool that it connects. Like you said, you took away all these filters and now you're connecting with people in a whole nother way. Okay, so when I read this, it seems like from your stories, as I'm going through it, your life seems like this just incredible adventure. Like you have some amazing stories, interesting, entertaining. You've had just crazy life experiences. What do you think has made it just such a grand adventure? Like, is it your perspective, the way that you approach life? Like, what do you think is behind that?
I think part of the adventure has been, I've always liked taking risk and I've liked to dare myself. And obviously I've not tried to take every risk because there are some foolish risks out there. But look, my life has been a mixture of, as I think all of us are, one, writing the headline first and then living the story towards that goal.
Okay.
Two, I don't know what's on the other side, but I'm jumping in and I'm going to find out.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think you're an optimist?
100%. I know I'm an optimist.
Okay.
I don't, and optimism has many different, you can put adjectives and adverbs in front of optimist and say there's delusional optimism, there's sort of hallmark optimism. I'm not a, dreaming, you can do it.
Yeah.
No. It takes, you dream it's good, but now it takes some work to go get it. I'm not for sugarcoating. I'm not just I don't immediately go, oh, the glass half full. No, I think we have to go, and it's when I talk about it with the title, Greenlights. When I say yellow and red lights eventually turn green in the rearview mirror of life, I am not denying the crisis of the red and yellow lights in our life, nor do I think we should.
Right.
I am saying that we do realize that they have lessons that are green light assets in our life. This year of COVID, this political unrest and imbalance and civil unrest, this year has major green light assets essentially in it. We don't know what they are yet.
Yeah.
But I know they're there. We know they're there. We're going to realize what they are down the line. Now, that is not denying tragedy and the disruption and even the deaths and I say the imbalance, at least, of everyone's life through this last year of 2020. It's not denying the hardship, but it is saying, all right, at the same time, the paradox is there are lessons to be learned here.
Yeah.
There are lessons to be learned to live a more valuable life individually, as a people, as a nation, going forward from here.
Yeah.
And boy, it's at least awkward, even tragic.
Yeah.
There are assets in this time. Don't know what they are, but the quicker we look for those, the quicker I think we can realize them.
Well, and you do that in the book because you tell all these amazing stories, but there are lessons and meaning that you attach to them. And I think that's one of the things that's so interesting about the way that you look at your life and the way that you reflect on these stories and wrote these stories, because it seems like to me that you reflect and look for meaning more than most people probably do. So I'm curious around that for someone that is learning from this book, watching you do that.
Right.
How would you encourage them to do that for themselves, to reflect on their own story as they're living it, to find those lessons in it,
Yeah, I mean, one tool that does help, and it's a simple one, but can be a hard one when you're first starting off doing it, is try and project, have a longer view with every decision we make. Ask yourself, what are the consequences of this decision? What are the compounding assets of this decision into my future? We don't do that often enough, I don't think. Sometimes we go, well, I don't know what the asset's going to be. I'm just going to find out. But more often than not, I think we find out that, okay, if I sit down and right now and have an interview with myself 5 years from now or 10 years from now, or ask myself what my eulogy is going to be, it will reveal a lot about how I truly feel about the decision I want to make right now. Mm-hmm. Ooh, I may say, oh, no, that you may get immediate gratification right now, Matthew, but tomorrow morning you're going to have a proverbial hangover, or next week or next year, you're not going to be proud of that or honored with that, or that's something that's a one-off, but you can't make that grow into the future. Right. Would your kids be proud of that? Can they become a part of that? So project a little bit, jump outside of ourselves to our future and have a look back. And that's why I'm a fan of, people always joke, because I do talk about myself in third person, but I'm a fan of people, what it does.
Yeah.
I don't mean it by arrogance. I mean it by awareness. I mean it when I say, hey, what do you think about this, McConaughey? That's me projecting outside of myself into the future and going, well, let me have an objective look.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now,
and most people don't.
We're all the subject. And I believe it's more important to live in the subjective more than the objective. Live in the first person more than the third person. But to jump outside of ourselves and go into the future and have a look back is a valuable means of awareness.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of kind of getting outside your own head in order to do that. My husband and I did kind of a dreaming session for this year. And one of the things we asked ourselves is, who do you want to be this year? Like, who do I want to be this year? Almost as if it's a different person. It is me. But to bring that awareness that I'm in control of who I want to be this year. You know, I'm curious when you talked about this, forecasting into the future, vision casting in the future, and then looking back, it made me think of something that you said in your book. When you talk about the way that you worded, I think, is checking what you're impressed by. And the visual you gave, which I thought was so powerful, is all the things that seemed too out of reach, brought them down to eye level. And all the things that you were too good for brought them up to eye level. And it made everything more level. You could see further. And talk a little bit about that. I thought that was a really powerful visual.
Less impressed, more involved.
Okay.
So we have mortal things in life that we are very impressed with. Fame, money, people. That's okay. But we can be so impressed with them that when faced with them, meaning if I'm so impressed to be talking with you right now and I have you on this pedestal, I can't really be involved in this conversation.
Right.
I'm not present. I'm still going, I'm too much in the third person. You know what I mean? I'm too much. The moment is bigger.
I do see you're struggling with that, Matthew. It happens all the time. I understand.
So I'm glad we're bringing it up, right? But I mean, we let moments become bigger than us that take us away from actually being involved in the process of really being ourselves and getting what we want out of them.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is you have to check out the things, especially mortally, if you're a believer. What do you really have reverence for? And do you have so much of a reverence for things that you're so impressed by it that you're actually blind and you're blocking yourself from being able to be involved in it? Now, take those things you may have too much reverence for and say, well, I still highly respect that. I have great respect for that. But when I respect it, now at least it comes down to eye level and I can look in the eye and I'm not going, paralyzed by the wow.
Yeah.
At the same time, when I feel my eyes come down from reverence to respect there, go down and look at the things that we look down upon, that we patronize, that we condescend, that we slough off, say, oh, they're not good enough. That's not good enough for me, blah, blah, blah. Well, all of a sudden, those things, you get a little more respect for those actually, and they come up to eye level and the world seems flat, meaning you see further, you see wider, you see more clearly, and you have more courage to go forward involved with full respect and still discernment for saying, no, that is not what I want to be. I have judgment there, and judgment gives me identity. I'm not saying yes to everything. But I'm respecting that. And we actually respect ourselves more when we see things like that and that we're not in reverence or in condescension of. And it gives us courage, less impressed, more involved. And again, I just want to reiterate, that does not mean do not respect those things that you revere. But we look at personal relationships. We can have a significant other that we have so much reverence for. It's not fair to them or us. Yeah. If I think Camilla's Wonder Woman and she thinks I'm Superman, that's unfair to both of us because neither one of us can live up to it.
Right. It puts a pressure
on us. We're not involved with each other.
Right.
If we're overly impressed, it's like, geez, what a horrible thing to put on somebody. Yeah. They can't be human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can't see them, and then they can't. Then if you hold someone in such reverence at a high level, it reflects out of their eyes. They start to see you where they can't be involved with you either.
Yeah.
So it's respect, but it's involved. There's respect that comes with the involvement instead of a reverence with the impression.
Yeah. It seems like such a healthy perspective on both, on having that balance. All right, y'all, I hope you are loving this conversation with the incredible Matthew McConaughey. We are going to continue with part 2 next week. Don't miss it.